Here we are again at Steve Allen's, and today we're talking Navaras, not patrols. We are going to turn the humble Navara with factory bumper into a stealth bumper. I'll show you the car we're going to work on. This is the lucky beast we're playing with today. Now, the way this is going to go is I'm here to help Steve, but he'll probably be doing most of the work, but I'm going to commentary, and because I've fitted a few of these up now, and this is going to be a bit of a resource for you if you're fitting them at home. So I'm going to get all the gear out, show you what we need, and we'll get into it. This is some of the parts we've got here. I've got everything out now, so make sure everything's here. The winch, cradle and brackets. These are the wings, and then inside this hole here is these parts. This is pretty cool actually, because the brackets at the back where you bolt in, if you've got STX, the lights fit in exactly where those holes are. So no modifications for the fog lights, they fit straight in. The bolt kits here, lots and lots of bolts. We'll go through what they're all for. And what you also find is this bolt kit. This is actually a road safe bolt kit for the recovery points. The bar standard comes with these sorts of cage nuts, and it's a different thread from the recovery points. So when you want to put recovery points on a later date, you almost have to take the whole bar off. So we're supplying these bolts up front, so you'll use these inside the chassis. Bit of a look at everything else. It's the bash plate. This is the light bar, so this gets integrated into this shroud here. Now, it comes, it's a pretty good light bar actually. Waterproof brackets, set up as like a pencil and broad beam, waterproof bracket, waterproof connections, but there is no loom, so you do have to supply that part yourself. Back of the grill. So to get the grill out, and I don't know where you got this grill, so I can't comment, but basically you reach your hand in through here and then you pinch them together, and that's how the grill comes out, real easy. Sneaky bolt under here. It's a 10mm I think, and it hides up there, and if you don't take that off, you damage your car. And if you've got the STX with a camera, you'll need to disconnect the camera too. Now, everything has to go pretty much. So, that has to go. These go. This whole cross section goes. That comes off. That comes off. Bash plate comes off. And even when you get the bash plate off, there's more of these sort of flappy things that come off too. Basically, you've got to rip everything off. As Steve's working away here, this car had a nudge bar on it, so we're going to take the nudge bar bracketry off first. But just reminds me as I'm looking here, the horn here we're going to have to rotate as well. So Steve's working over there, pulling the car apart. I'm going to start prepping the wings. So we've got to get the shrouds to the fog light assembly to fit in here, and there's these little cage nuts, these little things. So essentially, where all the holes are at the back, you just slip them in like this with a screwdriver on one side and push that in, which I'll show you. Let's see if I can do this one-handed, eh? So something like that. One hand on the camera. And like that.
Now let's get another 3 more winch holes, right? For 109 holes per pair. Alright, we're going to control it. Swing controllers. Really?
More at this point, so the way this bar fits like, you know, something like this. This is all exposed, so unless you want to have like a clear gap or where you're seeing the headlight, recommend painting the bottom half or plastic dipping it. We'll mask it up, I'll show you what I mean. Not endorsing, but this stuff seems to be alright. This is plastic dip. You could use paint, it'd be fine, but I don't know, I'm spraying a headlight, so I'm just a bit anxious about painting a headlight. So with plastic dipping it, it's just a matte one, and I'll put on like 10 coats. No, maybe I'm exaggerating. 5. Put on quite a bit anyway, and let it cure before you start fitting stuff up to it. Whilst we're in between coats of paint, we've got the winch cradle set up. This is rated to 12,000 pounds, by the way, and all of the airbag stuff, that's what happens in here. So if you actually have an accident with it, that's the bit that compresses. It's called the crash can. Anyway, while we're waiting for the paint to dry, we can start bolting the wings on. So we have the wings. These bolt on from the back, so I'll come in a bit closer here. I might even do this nice and slow because you'll probably watch this a bunch of times. So, wing there, cradle there, this comes in, something like that, so it's upwards. So I'm going to go on ahead and bolt them up now before I fit it to the car. And I'm not going to bolt it up tight either, loose, because this is where we have to do the adjustment at the end. Talking bolts. So we're going to reuse the Nissan bolts that came out of the chassis here. That's fine. And then under here, we've got, this is the ones that came out of the road safe bag. I need the small washer. The big washer is in case you're fitting recovery points, which we're not on this car. But there's a thread inside the chassis. I'll pick this up. How good am I here? I don't know. Anyway, so there's a thread in the chassis, so we don't need to put the cage nuts in there. On this side, however, there wasn't a factory recovery point before, so we have to get these things, slide them in the chassis, like so, and there's 2 of them, and then this will bolt up underneath. Right, here we go. Step 1, this funny looking bracket here goes on the chassis. So on the inside, like so, and then we've got the factory recovery point that we're reusing at the moment with the road safe bolts that came in the extra plastic bag. Now, as Steve's bolting that up, I'm going to take you over here to what we've been doing. So the winch cradle is, we're looking from underneath here. So that's the winch cradle here, that'll slip over the top. But before you do that, you can prepare all of this off of the car. So I'm going to do this nice and slow so you can see everything that's bolted on. These funny shape brackets first, and I'll show you the bolts, the larger bolts with the larger washer behind it. And if you don't have this fold going the right, like the bracket fold following the metal of the winch cradle fold, you're doing it wrong. So once you've got that on, you can put the wings on. So I'll use the crash can out, and you can see we've got the wings here. The bolts go in from the back, and they're the bolts that look like they've got a washer built into the bolt. Goes in this way. Keep this relatively loose because we're going to be adjusting that afterwards. Alright, so that was number 1. Number 2, then we've got, this is where the fascia bolts to. So that's a bracket on itself. There are locating holes. So if you've got these 2 holes, you can see this one's out that one's closer. You get those holes perfectly lined up. See if I can move it with my hand. But we're going to leave them kind of loose at the moment too. And then bolt this part on. So once you've got it all at this stage, and you've got the other brackets on, it should all start to move pretty quickly from here as we throw this up and on, and then we can start looking at the fascia. Alright, other side. So these are the road safe captive nuts, I guess you call them. So on this side, we didn't have to use them. I don't know if I can see down the barrel here or not. Don't know how well you saw that, but there's threads already built into the Nissan chassis on this side, but there's not on this side, so we have to use those nuts welded to a piece of wire. 2 on the bottom. And make sure you use the spring washer and washer as well. Alright, now we're doing the side one. Alright. Alright, cradle's on. I want to show you this. See how we've got these circles kind of overlapping in here? See if we can get it in focus. There's adjustments up and down over here. We want the circles to be like perfectly over the top of each other. Otherwise, you can see a bit more at the bottom here. Otherwise, it's going to not be close enough to the headlight. If anything, we want it a little bit on the higher side. Wow, it's raining. Sorry about the rain, because the audio is not going to be great. But I need to show you what we just did. So the 2 cage nuts that you've got left on the wires, one is going on the inside here and then the outside there. So this side, so that's the big bolts that are left over with the washers, and another one up here. Hopefully you can see that. And you do that on both sides. Let's see if I can get you a better look in there. Sorry, not the best look. Alright, again, a slight edit. Don't do what Dave did. I put this on back to front. It's actually, that should go on this side. So this bracket is actually supposed to go under here like this. Right, we're up to fitting the light bar to the fascia. Now, if we spin it around, what we had to do is take the bolts that come from the light bar kit, and I must admit they were a little bit long. I cut them probably in half and just spaced that so it fits nice and evenly in there. But now we've got 2 bolting points, and we use the Allen key bolts that we've got here, and they will bolt in like so. Alright, I've fitted these bars up, I don't know, 3 or 4 times now. This goes on the inside, not like I've done it here. So
don't do what Dave does.
Alright, that has to come around on the inside. So I'll just go and fix that up now, hey. It's starting to come together, but this is where the true mastery of fitting a bar comes in. This is the hard bit, so getting it all to align. So we bolted the bolts up here on the inside first with the cage nuts, then we're coming through and getting the big bolts that are left over with the big nut washers, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts on the inside. Just doing everything loose at the moment because there's going to be a fair bit of mucking around to get this fitting right. But as you can see, it's coming together and it's looking good. Alright, this is the fun part, putting the last few bits and pieces on. However, make sure you watch all of this video before you go and fit this up yourself, because we relocated the horn here and guess what? It fouls the back of the fog light, so we're gonna have to move this up there or somewhere a bit further back. She's coming together though, she's looking good. Bit of another hot tip for fitters. These bars, I think there must be a tolerance with missing, because everyone I fit is slightly different now, and to get them to line up perfectly here, what we ended up doing is actually just pulling the guard out a little bit, and that got it just perfect now. So, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, I think that's fine. Alright, I don't know if this shows up on camera, but we've moved it back, so it's behind this. Just basically picked up the bolt behind it, used the existing bracket, and I'm assuming these only go on one way. There we go. Often. Alright, let's see if this foggy fits. So these are the halogen globes. You can get aftermarket LED globes too, which aren't a bad idea, and they just like plug straight in. Alright. Yeah, we're good. Perfect. Nice. Let's bolt her up. Got excited, forgot to pull the camera out to show you how we put the bash plate on, but it's not too difficult. It's these bolts here with a washer. Up here there's 5 of them at the front, and then there's 2 smaller ones at the back. You can see them there. Heaps of holes for ventilation to that intercooler. Like, on one hand I'd like to have more holes to get even more air in there, but at the same time that would give less protection as a bash plate. So I've been running this for a while now and it's been fine, so I think this is the way it's going to be. We're in the final stages now, putting the last bolts on the guard and getting all the gaps right, and next part is the grille, and we purposely made this as sort of stubby here as possible. We didn't want one of those bumpers that hung out, so getting it to fit tight is great, but getting the grille to clip in here, there's not a lot of room. So we're going to undo this bracket up here, just loosen it off on the sides, clip the grille in, and then we're going to put our hands in and bolt it up from the inside. Sure? I don't see red on this side. Alright, taking that off purposely now, and we're going to go over here and clip it onto the grille. I think it's going to be easier to clip on over here, and it actually gives you a good opportunity to see. So hopefully you've watched all of this video before you started to install yours, because if you did, then you can have a look how these clip in. So when you are taking your grille out, basically there's a little clip here, you can just pinch all of them as you go along. But now I've done this right, we should be able to clip it all back in. Just like that. So this is an aftermarket grille, and yes, it looks awesome, but it's not mine and I don't know where to get it, so please don't ask. There we go. So now we'll lower the car down, bolt the 2 bolts on the outside, bolt the bolt up here, and then put the top clips in, and we are done. It's looking good. All right. Few schools of thought when doing this. My personal opinion is it should be cut 1 inch higher than the bottom of the bar. Some people say it needs to overlap and fall in front of the bar. I'll leave that up to you. Last little bit we're doing there is just texturing the guard liner up, otherwise it gets a bit flimsy. So there we go, it's on, and it looks sensational, I must say. It took us a full day, so
There is a bit of mucking around. It's very fiddly to get everything just perfect, but it's worth it. Like the tips that I took out of it is tighten the outside bolts first, then you work your way into the centre. There's 3 bolts here on the inside which you can tilt the bar this way if need be to get the gaps right. We were aiming for about sort of 10 to 15 millimetres. If you do a lot of full driving, maybe go a little bit more. But there's a lot of adjustment in the bar, so that'll be fine. But there we go. 2 of them together, looking killer. Hope you've enjoyed the video and hope you end up with a stealth bar.